Welcome to Grawlix Nights, the Grawlix Podcast live show. I'm Randy.
I'm Melanie.
And I'm Jesse.
I usually try to come in with like all kinds of energy, but man, that saxophone intro chilled me out.
It does that, man.
It do.
Chilled me right out. Hey everybody, what's going on tonight?
Nah.
What's going on tonight? Hey, we're gonna talk about some stuff. We're gonna talk about Mandalorian. We're gonna catch up on that finally. Melanie and I finally finished this season 3, and we're also going to talk about some news things, some headlines, entertainment headlines. We haven't done that for a while, really. And then, yeah, we're gonna do the Grawlix thing all in between and throughout.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what that is if you've been here before. But first, hey, you two, how's it going? Wait, that's different. How you two doing?
How you doing? Doing well, yeah. It's been
Good.
a long week. I had a con last weekend, so
Right.
it's like I haven't had a weekend. I'm starting to feel it.
Oh.
But it was good. It was a good con, like not like I made $1 million, but it was a good con in the sense that like people actually came, people were excited to be there. I was able to like talk to other artists and stuff and felt good about it. So, yeah.
That's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I imagine, so long as you're not, losing, I can't think, occasionally I can think of an expression that's like a swear, but I can't think of an alternative that doesn't sound just ridiculous. So long as you're not totally going broke every time, I imagine the experience is, the experience is the payment, right? The con
Right. Yeah.
was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, the con was the friends we made along the way. And we learned a little something about ourselves.
Right, right. What'd you learn this weekend at your con, Jesse?
That I missed cons, I guess.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good.
it was nice. It was good to hang out with other artists. And I thought last time that I went, I was like, man, maybe I'm just done with cons and maybe I don't need to do this anymore. And I think Axton was too. And after this con, we were both kind of like, maybe we're not done. Maybe we're not done
Well,
with
that's
all of them.
That's
Not
nice.
not forever.
Yeah, off mic, I think last week after the show, I think we were talking about it a little bit, and you sounded trepidatious, I guess. You sounded a little uncertain.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, you never know when you're going to these things, and I did no prep for it at all. But also, I have been making art all the way through the pandemic and throughout all this time that the cons weren't happening. So I had product. I just hadn't like purposely made product to sell at cons for a while. So yeah, no idea what to expect in that regard.
Do you ever make something really good and you're like, oh, I wish I had done this better? Like this napkin, nobody's gonna buy this napkin, but that's a perfect, whatever it is.
Oh yeah. Oh, throughout the pandemic, I was doing a bunch of like really quick mashups, like peanut mashups that I was just doing with like crayon, literally crayon, because I was like, I'm not gonna do anything with this, and I would do it, and I was like, oh darn it, this is good. Now I got to do it for real.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess if you're an artist, and especially if you do the similar things all the time, it's probably easier to at least kind of recreate something than it is if you're just Joe Schmo, maybe. I don't know.
Well, and sometimes I can scan it and just like alter it with the computer, and it's not like I have to completely remake it. And sometimes I can just like light box it. It's like, well, I'm just copying my own work. That's not cheating, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, I think a lot of artists, especially, it makes me think of painters, where they can like take masterpieces and then use like X-ray to see the painting under, where they'll do a sketch or whatever and basically paint over it, but they'll refine it what they want and then do the final pass. That's kind of what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Not randomly, but on this topic, did you notice, it's been one con, but did you notice any new trends? Because one of the things I remember talking about is just like trends in the stuff that that sells and the characters that sell and the stuff kids are drawn to and different people are drawn to at your booth? Like, notice any changing trends again?
It's hard to say with this con because this con is not your usual in terms of that. It's like stuff that wouldn't normally sell at other cons did sell at this one. You know,
right.
like Axton sold a bunch of his original character books, and those are just like, you know, like that almost never sells. Not because it's not good, just because it's like they'll see all the other stuff we do, which is very pop culture related, and they'll go, "Oh, it's Stitch, but he's dressed like Deadpool. I want that."
Right.
And then they'll just totally overlook the like over 100 pages worth of actual life, blood, sweat, and tears that he's put into this book. That's all his own original thoughts, you know. It's
Right.
like, oh, never mind this.
Yeah.
It's like the cover bands that get booked at bars or,
Right.
you know, remakes of stuff that don't necessarily need to be remade, but they're recognizable properties.
Right,
That's what people
right.
are drawn to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't know how to segue out of that, but yeah, interesting.
You
Melanie,
know what's really popular right now, it seems like, with all the young folk? Anime. And I don't know why. I mean,
is it really?
it is actually, yeah. It seems like it's like mainstream basically anymore. Like all of the kids, when like I go to pick up Bella or Chloe, you know, they all are into anime.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll want to ask, like, what animes are you into? Like, that's the mark of, it's almost like the hipster thing, like, yeah, but do you do anime?
Yeah.
Right.
And if you say Naruto or you say My Hero Academia, then you're kind of like, oh, you're a casual.
Right.
If you don't say Demon Slayer, then you're not a real anime fan.
Yeah.
I've been watching now.
Have you? Yeah.
Just tell them One Piece. One Piece.
That show seems weird. I don't know anything about it, but every time that it's just on or whatever, I'm like, what even is this show? Is it a pirate show? What's going on with this?
It is a pirate show, but there is a lot of really weird stuff that it does for no reason, I think. One of the people is a reindeer with a hat.
Yes.
And yeah.
Not one of the people. The
he's a-
best people.
He's a doctor. He's their
Tony
doctor.
Chopper. Tony Chopper is the best.
He
And
is.
he's the doctor I would want. It's
He's-
Tony Chopper, the reindeer, is a doctor.
the talking reindeer doctor
Yes.
that can transform into 7 different forms. 8 if you count when he overdoses on his rumble balls.
Yep.
Yep, you're right. This is definitely a pirate show.
You know, it's interesting. I feel like at the beginning, before the characters are so outlandish, and it's interesting because the thing that kind of drew me to it, I think, or pulled me into it, is the thing that normally I'd be like, would turn me off of a show. It's so goofy, and it's adventure, and that was why I started watching it, because I just finished Hunter x Hunter, and I was like, I want something that's like high adventure, but it's also a lot of comedy, as much comedy really, I guess, as anything, but it's so goofy. The character designs are intentionally ridiculous, and that could be a turnoff, but at a certain point, it's kind of the appeal of it. I don't know. It's good. That's on I don't remember last time we brought up One Piece what episode number I said we're on, but we're at like 320 something now.
Holy
We've made
moly.
some progress. It's like
Yeah.
only
So and it's continuous. It's not like some of these other anime properties where it's like, well, we did a series and now we're starting it completely over with the same
continuous.
characters.
No,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is continuous, and partially I think because the manga's been continuous. But yeah, it hasn't been. Yeah, like even Full Metal Alchemist, which is great. There's two anime series based on that, and lots of others. I think even Hunter x Hunter had a shorter run anime series before the, not even recent anymore, but the last one. But yeah, it's continuous. And that's also another part of it, is like there's so much world building and it's actually had the time span to like really dig into it. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't the first season, but earlier on, there was a character that we were like, that guy just saved this other, like the main character basically, just saved him and then disappeared. And who was that guy? And then like however many seasons later, we find out who he is. You know?
It does that Invincible thing. Only technically, I think it's been running much longer than Invincible ever did. But that Invincible thing of like seeding things that don't pay off till like years later, which is always great in storytelling, especially when because there's so much serialized storytelling, but there's so little that actually gets that amount of time and given that much foresight that it can pay off. You
Right.
know? Like you think about
Futurama.
Futurama's a good one. Invincible, of course. But think about longer running shows. You've got stuff like Doctor Who where there's not like necessarily a grand arc or, it by its nature switches completely, crew, showrunners, creative direction every so many years. So you're not going to end up with these huge, long, intentional arcs. You might get some retcon stuff, but you end up with like just kind of a ridiculously messy canon. So it's cool to be able to see a show. Not that One Piece has been running anywhere near that long, but my point is, we don't get shows that run that long that have that kind of, I don't know, attention to its own canon, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Even The Walking Dead.
Right.
Like, let's change showrunners a couple dozen times in the same season, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It does, though, the anime thing, and this is like the worst thing about anime, in my opinion, is when anime is following a manga closely, you can tell when they run out of the manga and they're waiting. And it's like, I wish they would just take a break, just stop. But instead they'll artificially stretch out the story they have as long as, and it's like, it's booking, and then you could tell the like very story beat where they ran out of manga, and suddenly they stretch one scene out. It's the Dragon Ball Z thing. They'll stretch one scene out for like 7 episodes, and it's like, that's so frustrating and irritating.
Mm-hmm.
And in the somewhere in the around 300, they started doing the thing where they're just like, we're just gonna come up with our own ridiculous what if type stories and do whole episodes of that in between. Problem is, it always comes at like a cliffhanger where you're like, no.
Yeah.
We weren't going to talk about One Piece. What are we doing?
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. And I've been watching samurai movies. I'm living in Japan in my mind right now. I'm not a weeb, though. Come on. Melanie's the one with the waifu game. I don't have any waifu anythings.
Well, if you had 300 wives, no, I don't really have 300 wives. I have like 50 wives, but still, I do have a couple thousand children though, and a lot of grandkids.
It's a waifu game, and she plays it every day.
Shush.
Anyway, you know what though? Let's talk about Mandalorian.
I was going to say, this is the way. That would have been our segue, but
That would have been better.
this is the segue.
That's perfect.
You knocked me out with that one. This is the segue. It's so good. Yeah, we finally finished it. We had watched, of course, last week we did Doctor Who talk, so we didn't talk about the episode prior to the season finale, but we had watched the season finale today, and last week we had watched the other one. Yeah. So
That second to last episode really just is like, we are getting you ready for the finale.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting because I remember talking about, maybe halfway into the season, where like the season is interesting, but like it's so disjointed. But now at the end, it feels less disjointed to me because it's all very centered on this Mandalore plot.
Yeah.
So I don't know that super disjointed. I feel like maybe it was a pacing issue throughout the season, is why it felt off. But overall, I actually kind of like the season. I don't think the season's been getting a lot of love.
Do you think it's just because of the ending?
I kind of love the ending, though.
Yeah.
I like.
I don't hate the ending. It's just it's like, whoa, wow.
It is a pacing issue because that second to last episode sets up this whole thing, and that feels a little bit like a cheap reveal. And then this episode was just like dealing with it fairly quickly in one episode. It was a cool episode. I mean, it was pretty much all action.
Right.
But it does seem a little rushed, which is weird when you consider they spent an entire episode to set up what is essentially an off sideline bad guy character, villain with that one lady.
Yeah, and really that the payoff for that is like a comment that they make in the middle of their little hologram meeting, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
And the reveal of his clones and all that, like, it's very strange. It felt, like I said, I feel like the whole, like, on paper it's fine, but the season as a whole has some serious, like, plotting, like, pacing issues.
So some of that stuff is setting up for future stuff too. You know, like the clones are probably setting up for whatever Thrawn is doing. And Thrawn will probably show up in Ahsoka.
I feel like that's been... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is everybody just going to secretly make clones of themselves because they're egomaniacs?
Well, basically, it's all leading to Palpatine and his clones, which allow him to still be alive in the last... in the movies that are the final movies we just saw with Rey.
Wait. So did they make all these series just so that they could explain some stuff that people were complaining about? Because if so...
Maybe.
That's what I was about to say. And it seems like... I mean, the clones I said seem out of nowhere, but they did like set it up from the very beginning of this series that they were after Grogu. And this kind of establishes why he was trying to get
Right.
the Force juice or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I was going to say. Multiple seasons of multiple series to set up to fix a plot hole, essentially, in one of the movies.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
I feel like the season finales of Mandalorian, in terms of where they leave Din Djarin, is fine. But I feel like they're always like setting something else up, and that's kind of a weak point for me. The first season, the second season, I mean, they wowed us with some Luke Cage. Imagine.
Oh my. Man, Luke Cage comes in and just takes out Moff Gideon like...
It'd be great. No, some Luke Skywalker, they wowed us with that, but like also it's just like, no, Turner, you son of a gun.
From out of nowhere.
It's metal in your lungs.
Your lungs.
Anyway. Yeah. I don't know what I was saying. I got derailed by that. But I think I pretty much had said it. That's kind of been always the weak point for all the season finales is they're clearly just setting up other things that aren't even necessarily Mandalorian. That said, I know it's maybe a little too convenient of a bow, but you know, full spoilers for Mandalorian season 3. We got Din Grogu. It rolls off the tongue. Like all Star Wars names, it rolls right off the tongue. Din Grogu. And they have now they have like a character reason to go on random adventures as bounty hunters, and they have a little homestead. I'd be okay if they left it there. If they didn't come back, I mean, I'd love me some Mandalorian.
No, they're going to come back later, and he's going to be a teenager, and he's going to be like, "You're not my real dad!"
Oh, no, they're going to Baby Groot this thing.
Oh, don't do that. Yeah, I don't know. I look forward to the comic books of their further adventures or whatever else,
Right.
because that seems ripe. If you're going to leave the series somewhere, and even if not, this is a great point to like insert expanded media of just one-off adventures in the
Right.
stars, among the wars of the stars.
Right. In a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A little while back.
Yeah. Some time ago.
What is the? Oh, just
Oh,
somewhere out in space a while back. It's really like.
I get confused about the desert planets. So, the sheriff, who's the sheriff and everything, was he the sheriff on the planet that they live on now, or was
No,
he?
he's on Tatooine.
Okay.
Yeah, what planet are they on now? I don't remember.
Oh, what do they call? Yeah, Navarro.
Okay.
Carl Weathers' planet.
Right.
Yeah. That's where their cabin. Look, it's not a cabin. It's like a trailer or something, I think, or like a compartment from a ship that they just dropped.
Yeah, that's is what it looks like. You commented on it. Is looks like just a compartment out of a spaceship.
But that's fine. You can live in that.
Pod.
So, Grogu has a battle suit that can say yes and no. And then we get Taika Waititi.
Right.
Like, we spend this whole season saying, no, you can't. Oh, no, you can't. And then all of a sudden he's like, maybe you can.
Hey, there's a robot head up there.
Right.
There you go. That's convenient.
Right.
Also, so he talked. The battle suit is still weird. It's a weird decision. It looked, I mean, visual effects wise, it looked fine, but it was awkward just because the design of that robot is too upright and weird. But it is a weird decision that like that robot's back. I mean, except he's totally not that robot and he doesn't have his memories or anything. But whatever, that robot's back. It's literally
If you're going to make a
no
mech
part.
suit, that's not a great mech suit.
No.
No. But we got lots of Grogu running around, kind of jumping around, with this very limited movement doll body in that last episode, and that always amuses me.
And you got old Mandalorians on a land ship.
That was fun.
Right. There were that last episode. I was enjoying the jetpack action. It looked great. That was a lot of fun, I thought.
I don't know what those red, I don't like priest-looking dudes were, but they look really cool.
The Praetorian Guard, which are kind of like the Imperial Guard in Jedi. Yeah. They're supposed to be just like awesome. They legit guard the Emperor.
Gotcha.
So, but now they're guarding Moff Gideon because he's an egomaniac.
He's got his
I
own
guess
thing
so.
going on.
Yeah.
He's sending
They're
his
like,
own
sure, we'll give you 3.
thing. You think he's dead? We didn't see it.
I don't know. We didn't see him. He's just engulfed in flames. So, like, no way. Nobody died. I mean, if the Emperor didn't die in Return of the Jedi, then, but I guess maybe he did die, and maybe he was just cloned. I mean, again, fixing a plot hole.
And he let him come through there. I don't think he'd let him come through the only room with his clones in it if, he didn't have. He's backed up somewhere. So even if he actually died, he's still alive somewhere.
Plus, he's in a completely Beskar suit. So, like, if Boba Fett can fall into a Sarlacc pit, which is like just totally acid in Beskar, and still come out, maybe scarred, then Moff Gideon can survive flames, albeit maybe he's Freddy Kruegerized. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, not only did he come out maybe a little scarred, but otherwise fine, he put on some weight. He was eating good in that
Yeah.
It sure didn't hurt him. No.
Oh, but if it got hot enough, it would still, even if it didn't, it would, the temperature itself, you'd think, would probably kill him.
Right.
He's fused into the suit. He's a new Darth Vader. That's my
Oh,
guess.
Oh,
well.
there it is. He wanted to
Or
be
something
Darth
like
Vader
that.
all along. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm a dark trooper. I want my clones to have the Force. Like that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me want to watch The Prestige. I don't know why. Well, I guess I do. It's like the guys in tanks, I guess, but
Oh, okay, okay. Prestige is good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, man. I feel like a really entertaining fan edit movie could be made out of this season. You know,
Right.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of I feel like good stuff, but it's presented in such kind of a seemingly, I don't know, unbalanced way.
I feel like the whole season went too fast. They should have spent more time on almost everything. Like they should have spent more time with the people that were still on the planet and exploring that before they ran into the Imperials or Imperial, whatever, you know what I mean. And then they also should have spent more time, I think, with them getting like just to know each other before they even went to the planet. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
they got together. I think some like one person fought, and then they were like, "Okay, we're good. Let's go." And we're not now. We're a team. I just don't buy any of. I don't buy any of this happening so fast.
Not that
You don't
Mandalorian-
just cheat at space chess.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I get, in retrospect, I get what they were doing with that. They had that misdirect of that ship that was attacked, and they found Beskar or whatever the metal is in there, and it seemed like they were. Maybe it's just it seemed like they were setting something else up, and they didn't go that way. But like that ended up really not meaning anything.
Well,
essentially.
basically, they had this base on Mandalore all along, and they were making these dark troopers. They were making
How-
these Beskar stormtroopers, and so
Right.
who broke them out? Beskar stormtroopers.
Yeah, that makes sense. How were there Mandalorians still living there that seemingly had no clue that there was this whole base being built?
Right.
You think
Right.
they'd notice ships coming and going once in a while?
I would think so.
Right.
Yeah.
They were amazed by all the things that were growing on a planet that apparently didn't have anything growing. That's really weird to me. Why would you live on a planet where things couldn't grow? I'd be like, this planet's done for. Let's leave. You know. But that's
Right.
just me.
Overall, though, I didn't hate the season. It's probably not it's definitely not their strongest, but
I didn't hate it either. I just wish that they had taken the time to explore it more.
right.
So
Yeah, no, I agree. It did suffer from the whole thing of like, and like I was gonna say, not that Mandalorian's known for its, deep character work or anything. It's based on like, pulpy Western and sci-fi and samurai and different genre cliches, right? That's kind of what the first couple seasons, for the most part, were based on, with the Star Wars plot weaving throughout. But this one seemed like it was more concerned with hitting those Star Wars plot points. Maybe that's what, when they'd go off on this tangent with the not German doctor, or that weird episode where they have to go rescue the kid from the pterodactyl who definitely was eaten hours
Yeah.
after he was taken, and not just, I don't know, in his mouth all night. Maybe that's
don't-
what they were trying to go for, though, like with these like extended little bits of like kind of like, you've seen it, tropey stories. But it
that
made
might. I was thinking about
Sorry.
that later. Sorry, the pterodactyl thingy. If it's supposed to be like a bird, birds, I don't know. I mean, maybe they have stomach acid, but I'm not sure that they do. But they eat stones to help crush stuff up inside their stomach. And if he had a Beskar suit on, then maybe he would have survived. I was thinking about that later.
Okay.
Anyway.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. But maybe it was injecting that stuff and then like slamming back into Star Wars plot point, action scene. Maybe I don't know. It just didn't gel as well.
Well,
as I feel like
even the Shadow Council was just like, "Hey, what about that research you promised us?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's not happening anymore." Dead.
Right,
Yeah.
right. A little slapdash.
You know what I don't buy? How long in real time, if we were there with them, how long has the Mandalorian been with Grogu? You think? Like a couple years?
Maybe,
Say-
yeah.
It doesn't even seem necessarily that long, but
Okay, let's
Right.
take even a year. You know how old babies are when they start talking? Like a year. And you know what? Grogu can do backflips and shoot people. He is old enough to freaking be uttering a few words by now.
yeah, but he's already like what 100 years old or something, right? So who knows how
Well,
it works?
that's
with
true, but
Yoda's.
if he can push a button that says yes and no, then he can open his mouth and say yes and no, is all I'm saying. I don't buy it. It's bull poop.
I do remember seeing a headline about the producers debated whether or not they should have him talk. I was expecting him to maybe talk. They set it up, but I was actually a little relieved when they don't. I feel like when he starts talking, his appeal is gonna kind of wane a little bit.
No, they need to give him Catbug's voice, and then it won't.
Well, if they give him Catbug's voice, that's fine. But the kid who played Catbug is probably not a kid anymore, so
He's
who knows
not.
if that's even
He's-
a viable option.
I watched some of it. I don't know, not Catbug, but like what is it called?
Bravest Warriors?
Bravest Warriors. Some later Bravest Warriors, and you can hear his voice aging up.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, that sucks. But find somebody who can do Catbug's early voice and give that to Grogu, and everyone will love him even more.
It's a rare thing when anything casts an actual child to do voice acting for a child character because of that.
Yeah,
Because they
yeah.
know.
right.
You know. But I think, Bravest Warriors is probably a different one because I'm pretty sure that he's like probably the little brother of
Yeah,
somebody
somebody.
who was making it or something,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Mandalorian.
So, do you think there will be a season 4? You think? I mean, like the way that they kind of end it, it makes it seem like it could be over. You know?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
It did seem like hedging their bets. It seemed like we can obviously come back because we're set up for adventure, or we could not come back, and you can still have adventures in your mind of them. They're not dead somewhere or whatever. It definitely does seem like I don't know.
I mean, sure, it could end that way, but I don't think they're going to because it's still popular, or more so than some of the movies, or it seems like at least.
I
Love
don't,
how it even ended with that. Like, what do you even call that? It's like a shutter almost. So it's like, beep,
right.
almost like a Looney Tunes ending. Like,
Yep. I feel like they weren't 100% sure, and so that's how they ended it. And if they're not 100% sure, because a thing being popular means nothing anymore when it comes to like streaming shows.
Yeah.
Apparently, even Disney's like, because
Well, if people
the
would
bubble has burst.
if people would stop buying each other and selling each other and all that all the time, it wouldn't be such a pain in the butt. But that's what they just keep on doing. But aren't they supposed to be cracking down on monopolies in the entertainment and or telecommunications?
they haven't done that in years. In years,
I know, but
antitrust. What is that?
Not in America, anyway. Interestingly, that is a nice. This is the segue out of that into. I didn't know if I was going to cover this one, but it's related. But also, there's another similar story. So, apparently, the Senate is going after Ticketmaster still with an antitrust bill.
oh, good.
Who knows what that's going to result in? But this I think started. Was it back in January? Around the time. I mean, Taylor Swift, man.
Yeah.
Taylor
She
Swift
makes it
fans
happen,
kinda
man.
got this rolling, yeah. We don't have to dive too much into that, but everybody knows Ticketmaster sucks and
Yeah.
horrible price gouging because there's no viable competition, and the competitions that there are not viable because Ticketmaster has such a stranglehold over the entire industry, which is the problem. Which used to be something that America cracked down on, like before we were born. I guess depending how old you are, but
Well, we know how old we are.
well, I'm not sure when. The last big one that I know for sure was the phone company, right? The phone companies, Ma Bell and all that was the last big one.
And then AT&T just went and bought Comcast, so there you go.
Right.
Or
It doesn't matter anymore.
got sucked up by Comcast, and yeah.
But there's another story about Microsoft is buying the games industry. But
Yeah.
they've been trying to buy Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. And they've had a lot of, like, Sony has been, of course, like, throwing a fit about that. So they've had a lot of, like, pushback against that, and it kind of was seeming like, because they're getting looked at real hard by the U.S., of course, for monopoly reasons, antitrust reasons, but also in the EU. But it was looking like it's probably going to be fine. But then the EU apparently just recently threw them a curveball. It's like, when it comes to the cloud gaming space, they're looking at that. This merger is a huge problem, so they might get blocked in that respect. But anyway, so Microsoft's still fighting to buy up Activision Blizzard, which is a very large developer publisher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And if
after they already have like Bethesda and whoever else.
Yeah, and if they made it so that only their systems could play all of those games, then
Right.
Sony has every reason to be freaked out.
Well, and Sony was super upset because Activision Blizzard, if Microsoft bought them up and then made them like Xbox and probably PC exclusive, cutting out PlayStation, that's that Call of Duty money. And you don't take away the Call of
Right,
Duty
right.
money. And I'm
Right.
sure other franchises, but like that's one of those franchises that comes out, seems like every year with a new, it's almost like the sports titles where it's every year or a
Right.
couple years and it's big money. And so that's, I think, their primary concern.
How can they come out with a game every year or even every couple years and have it be any kind of good? Because
But barely changing it at all.
I
yeah,
suppose.
and lots of money and crunch and microtransactions to keep the machine churning. Yeah.
Gross.
The gaming industry seems, gross is a good way. It just seems like not great to be in. A
You've
part
got,
of.
like-
video games are awesome, but man,
Yeah, you've got like the Fortnite model, and then you've got like the indie games. Like you still got your Minecraft style, but then you got whatever the heck Roblox is doing,
Yeah.
which seems like all jump scare Five Nights at Freddy wannabes.
I don't really play on Roblox, but I watch my nieces do it, and I kind of don't mind that just because whatever the engine or stuff, like you can make your own games and have other people play them, and I appreciate that part of it the most, Like the girls get on there and make things and then sell them to people, and I like that. I like that they're able to do that.
Sure.
I feel like Roblox somehow really capitalized and really struck big on the dream that a lot of developers had, which is a game that becomes entirely sustained from user-generated content, which is something that was real big for a while. But it's, if it doesn't land with a decent user base, then it's just not maintainable, right?
Right.
But yeah, user-generated content. It
Yep.
keeps the game fresh, and the developer doesn't have to do any extra work. I mean, they update stuff and whatnot, but
So you start teaching those babies code as soon as they're out of diapers. and then bam, you never have to work again and still make lots of money.
Roblox irritates me because like I like tycoon games and simulation games, but I can't ever search for like new ones coming out because that seems like a big chunk of what people make in Roblox. So if you search that, you just get a bunch of Roblox crap. I'm like, I'm not playing Roblox.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. I mean, I'd be about it if it weren't Roblox. That just does not have any appeal to me. But I also, from what I know of the user base, I am not its intended audience. But I'm all about games that let you make things. But that's just not a thing that appeals to me.
It seems
Yeah.
like there's like all these, and I don't know anything about Roblox, so I know it's a thing. That's all I know. But like, there's all these like toys and stuff that come out in Walmart, and I think they're based on Roblox games, like Baldi. I don't know what that is, but there are Baldi action figures at Walmart,
Yeah.
and same thing with whatever Huggy Wuggy is, which sounds like another Five Nights at Freddy thing. But we're like different monsters or whatever. Like he looks like your friend and he's gonna hug you, but then he's really just gonna like squeeze you to death, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's like all these, and there are toys of those at Target now.
Right.
I wonder how that works. You know, we don't know gits about Roblox, but obviously, but you know, maybe the developer does like release a bunch of stuff too, because I don't know how that would work if it was user generated stuff necessarily. But I also don't understand how it's monetized, but I know people make money making things on there. I'm sure. I wonder if they've gotten in trouble with anytime a game where the target audience is kids is hyper monetized, like eventually that leads to trouble for the company. Like recently Epic Games, I think there was a settlement or big judgment or something against them for some of their rather shady microtransaction practices when it comes to specifically what's the cartoon murder game?
A cartoon murder game.
Fortnite specifically.
Okay.
Because basically, and it's not just that they're targeting kids, but it's partially targeting kids. Like apparently the microtransactions are real easy to initiate, like one click you buy it type and easy to initiate.
Oh.
And they've also been found that like, I love the term, but it's dark practices or dark UI or whatever it is, where it's like menus are set up to funnel you specifically, not quite trick you, but like kind of mentally put the the mental whammy on you, but to funnel you towards purchases and to make it hard to avoid purchases and stuff like that. I can't remember the term, but it's a cool sounding term for kind of shady business practices, and they were found that they're like, yeah, that's what you're doing. You need to stop that, Epic.
I don't play that kind of stuff, but I know some of I like mostly play puzzle games on my phone besides my waifu game, but I know they have commercials, and if you try to click off of them too soon, it takes you to the Play Store and starts trying to download stuff automatically. And I'm like, what are you doing? No. And I understand. Yeah, I mean, it's not the same because I'm not paying for it. But you know, if I was, it'd be worse.
So Poppy Playtime, which is what this Huggy Wuggy thing is, it's not Roblox, I guess. So I guess that's all I know about it now.
Dark patterns. That's what they call it in user interface and user experience design. Dark patterns. It's the whole like triggering the things that gambling tries to trigger and keep you going.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Parents should just either not give their kids a phone or a tablet or whatever, or they need to keep that stuff on lockdown, because I've known way too many people that really got screwed up. Or the worst, one of my coworkers who shall remain nameless, let their child use the work phone, and their child ran up $8,000 in charges on the work phone. How? I don't understand that stuff, but yeah.
$8,000. That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. But kids don't understand. They don't understand the concept, of having this money has to come from somewhere. We have to work for it. We have to pay it back.
Right. Pay to play. Yeah, it's not a real thing, but I have to pay real money to get this fake money, and then this fake money buys me things in the game that I need in order to win.
Right. It doesn't help when all money is basically fake anyway. It's just made up imaginary things. If it was something more concrete, it'd be easier for them to understand that it's real,
And I agree with easy for you to say you don't have kids, but I agree with the sentiment that parents should most of the time when I hear arguments about anytime I hear think about the kids, I'm like, yeah, this ain't about the kids. But when I hear that with video games, most of the time, or at least traditionally, I'd been like, that sounds like a parent responsibility. But stuff like dark patterns and like microtransactions in games marketed specifically towards kids. I know kids have money, but kids don't have money. Like, you should not make it part of the experience to try to get kids to pay you money constantly. I mean, I guess it's arcades, right? But whatever. It's not. It's different. So I think there is more responsibility on the developer's end to not take advantage of your user base. In
Arcades were different because it was a physical, tangible thing that you would run out of, right? And then, but a lot of these games, it's like the funding source is tied right into whatever the app store is, and so it's literally a couple of clicks, and they are feeding real money into this game again.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Never keep your card attached to any gaming account ever, in my opinion.
Right.
You're right. If arcades required not quarters, your parents' credit card to be swiped at least once, and then it remembered you, they would have shut down way before they died out in the 90s,
right?
Or whatever. Yeah. They would have got shut down real fast. Interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and that's I don't know how I feel. Then it makes me think of Roblox, because you can't spend money in there. You have to spend Roblox. But how hard is it to buy Roblox, really?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
You probably have to spend at least 2 Huggy Wuggies and a Baldy to get so many Robux. And then that translates to V-Bucks, which translates to Rocket League credits, which is real money, right?
So somewhere in there's gems as well.
Yeah.
It's always gems.
Plus, kids are dumb. I remember Bella, when she was younger, being like, I got scammed. And I'm like, you got scammed? She's like, yeah, somebody was like, give me your username and password and I'll give you this whatever. And then they took all my stuff. I'm like, that's not scam, baby. You're just dumb. I'm like, don't ever give your information away. But, they're little and they're naive and they don't know about this kind of stuff. Happen? To her, at least twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
Never ever tell someone your user number. Yeah.
Kids are gullible.
Yeah.
And
they're
it.
far
Kids
too
are gullible, and they also don't necessarily, and when it comes to money, don't have a solid grasp on the actual value of money. So.
And they still haven't learned yet that nobody's going to give you something for free. Right. So because that was part of the thing. Of course, they said, I'll give you this if you give me access to your stuff. I'll just put it in there for you. And it seems like such a good deal,
Partly because we've created we've turned into a sociology podcast. Who knew? Partly because they are getting used to things just being free. How do we? Because it's hard to manage behaviors in school. You start to see more of a token or a I don't know, almost like a Pavlovian response to behavior, where it's like, well, as long as you keep doing the right thing. Here's a ticket. Here's a candy. Here's a fidget. Right. Here's a prize. Now you're going to go to the carnival and everything's free there.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Catholic school, we used to have to pray like before and after lunch, and they would ring a little bell, and I went there and they rang the little bell and everybody stood up to pray, and I started clapping because I was set to a different sort of, programming.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep.
So, would you then at some point, anytime you heard a prayer, get real hungry? I guess people pray typically.
You just start salivating and you don't know why.
Might have, except we prayed all freaking day long, I swear.
Oh, okay.
There was a prayer for everything all the time.
Jesus.
We had to learn them in Spanish, too.
Jesus.
Exactly.
And not Jesus, it'd be Jesus, but whatever. Jesus, that's something different.
It's all
Yeah.
Greek to me.
That's right. Hey, speaking of kids. That's a weak segue, but
This is the
an
segue.
This is an interesting headline to me because this is one of the most ridiculous things ever, and I'm glad he kind of came around to it. Steven Spielberg regrets editing guns out of E.T. Quote, I should have never done that, or I never should have done that. I'm sure we've talked about it over the years because it's one of those things where it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But in case you don't know, E.T. from 1982, some FBI agents are chasing after the kids through part of the movie. That's kind of the thing. They have an alien, and the FBI. If movies taught me anything, it's FBI wants the aliens.
Uh-huh.
But since they're FBI, they have guns. Well, at some point, was it the early aughts? It was like the 20th anniversary, so it would have been 2002, right? Or something like that. I'm assuming listening to his good friend George Lucas, who was all about digitally altering his old movies. Spielberg had them digitally replace the guns with walkie-talkies because, like, can't have people with guns chasing kids.
Welcome to the anti-gun show.
But he apparently now regrets doing that. He's like,
Yeah,
Let's see.
because he was like, it should be realistic so that they know they can get shot by cops. No, I'm sorry, not cops.
I'm pulling this from IndieWire.com, and they're pulling it from Variety. But he apparently said to Variety that it was a mistake. I never should have done that. E.T. is a product of its era. No film should be revised based on the lenses we now are either voluntarily or being forced to peer through. That's interesting wording.
Yeah, it is.
He went on to say, E.T. was a film that I was sensitive to the fact that the federal agents were approaching kids with firearms exposed, and I thought I would change the guns into walkie-talkies. Years went by, and I changed my own views. I should have never messed with the archives of my own work, and I don't recommend anyone do that. All our movies are kind of a signpost of where we were when we made them, what the world was like, and what the world was receiving when we got those stories out there. So I really regret having that out there. Whatever, he was just talking.
Yeah.
But
No, he's right. I wish you would have learned that sooner because even if like today a federal agent or just somebody wouldn't run around pointing guns at children, at the time if they did that, which I don't really know if they did that then as much as they do now, but then we should show that, you know what I mean? Like, you don't go back to footage from, Germany in the 40s and be like, everybody's nice and has bunnies and is friendly with everyone, because that's not how it was, and you have to know that that's not how it was, or,
right.
history is doomed to repeat itself, which it probably will anyway, but still.
Well, no, that made me think of stuff, but also he was then asked, of course, like, kind of the natural, like, questioning of that is, what about, like, stuff like the recent debate over Roald Dahl's children's books, where they changed language in the books. to be more inclusive, removing stuff like words like fat, whatnot, and changing gender neutral language being changed or added to the witches, stuff like that. But he said, "It's our history, it's our cultural heritage. I do not believe in censorship in any way." Yeah, I mean, first off, kids maybe need to learn if you're running from the FBI. Maybe
You're in
they will
trouble.
shoot you.
Yeah.
There's
It might
danger
be-
involved.
Yeah, you might be in danger if you're running from the FBI. That's
Right.
a bad.
Oh.
That's a bad scene.
Right. Like, listen, the FBI having guns is the least traumatizing part of that movie. It's
Yeah.
seeing pale, dead ET on the side of the road will mess you up.
Oh my gosh.
okay?
Yeah, that will really.
Replace that with a walkie-talkie. I mean, he's not really dead, but he looks dead.
Replace that with a walkie-talkie. It was like, oh my god, what is wrong with that walkie-talkie, man?
Well, and part of my thing about a lot of it is, if there's stuff that is inappropriate, then really what you need to do is if you expose them to it, then explain why it's inappropriate. You know what I mean?
Right.
So kids aren't dumb. You just have to be able to break it down in a way that they can understand it. Kids are smart, you know?
Well, it's like the more extreme examples of stuff would be, I don't know. I'm thinking about like Mark Twain stuff with like very racially charged language that is not, acceptable, unless the nature of the work is kind of hateful. Did
Okay, now I am.
okay, we're back. I lost signal for a second. which
So
is
did
really
I.
Weird.
Yeah, you guys froze on me, and I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, added context. It doesn't do anybody any favors to like. I mean, of course, the like cartoons with. Okay, hey, maybe we'll have to end this episode real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yep. You know what else is amazing? Landing on the moon, because it seems like nobody can do it. So on Tuesday, a Tokyo-based company, iSpace, attempted to land on the moon, but is believed to have crashed. The Hakuto RM-1 lunar lander was descending as planned, but just before it touched down, communication was lost. A similar communication loss indicated the crash of Bereshit, an Israeli lander that also attempted to make the first private moon landing in 2019, and just a few months after that, India's first attempt at a moon landing also ended the same way. NASA commented that landing is one of the most challenging aspects because time gets compressed and there's very little margin to try something again if it didn't happen as planned. So if you take into account like the moon's dustiness and the uneven terrain and wonky gravity, it's not really surprising that they all keep crashing. That's it.
NASA's like, landing's kind of hard. Unless you're us. No, it's still fascinating to me, and not to give people like conspiracy nuts like any reason to really jump on the topic, but how are we going to do it in 1969 and then never again? It's so weird to me. But I think part of it is also they're like, that sucked. Maybe let's not do that again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, they're. You know, or did you catch that?
Okay.
But they almost died. Buzz Aldrin took apart a pen and shoved part. Yeah, me either.
I'm
But
gonna run a speed test.
they got saved by a pen. That's it. That's the moral of the story. And they are lucky they didn't keep trying because more people probably would have passed away. We're done, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say Street Fighter movie is gonna be happening. That's not old news. This is not a Tekken story. That's somewhat recent. Amazon's picking up the animated Batman feature that HBO or that WB dumped. That was in. It's supposed to be a follow up to the animated series, Batman the animated, like old school animated series. It was in planning or whatever pre-production, and then got dumped by Warner Brothers. Amazon's picking it up. I'm just making good on my news, my headlines promise. Exorcist sequel. Apparently the Exorcist movie that, what's his name that...
Yes?
Okay. It's going to be a sequel, and it's titled The Exorcist Believer. And it's going to have Ellen Bernstein, which is actually kind of interesting. I wonder if they're going to treat it like a Halloween thing, you know. Mm-hmm. This is the direct sequel to the original. I'm guessing
cool.
so.
They should have old ladies crawling on the ceiling.
They should. Ant-Man is hitting Disney Plus May 12th. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania will be streaming May 17th on Disney Plus. Okay, that's all my news stories.
All right.
There. Made good. Anything you guys want to mention before we jump out of here?
Nope.
All right.
Nothing really, no.
All right. We're going to the drive-in this weekend, I hope.
Oh, yeah. In Evil Dead 2? Or Rising?
Evil Dead Rise and Cocaine Bear?
Yep. Oh. Okay.
True story. Look it up.
Based on true events, yeah.
Yep.
Reddit, they've had an ad on Reddit for a while, and I love it. It's just like, a bear did cocaine bear, and I'm like, that's all you need. That's the marketing. Yep. That's brilliant. Bear did cocaine. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Grawlixpodcast.com. Or go to most of the social media sites and throw a /Grawlix podcast. You'll get there.
Yep. You'll get there.
Hi, everybody.
Bye. Good night.